Welcome to the next episode of Tapped In with Tony. Tonight's guest is a podcaster in his own right, and he's a comedian. And I was also a guest on his show as well. The host of Ride Home Rants, Mike Bono, joins us. Mike, thank you for coming on the show.
No problem, brother. Glad to be on your show for a change instead of you on mine.
Yeah, man, you been going at it for quite a bit. You're doing comedy. You're got your own podcast, and those that are listening who may not know, tell us who a little bit about who you are.
So Mike Bono, I guess that's a stage name for me. My actual name is Michael Bonaventura, so most people can see why I go by Mike Bono. I've been doing comedy. It'll be coming up on 11 years in this coming November. Um, really started my podcast, the Ride Home Rants podcast, during the height of the pandemic. Came out technically in December of 2020. Everything was shut down. Comedy shows were shut down. So I needed something to keep my name out there. And I was selling RVs as a day job because it was one of the only things that was still open. And I would just make these uh, videos on my way home, and it was really just me complaining about my half-hour drive home, and then my day as an RV salesman. And somebody reached out and was like, "Dude, you need to make this a podcast. You need to just turn this into a podcast." And I was like, "Well, the hell do I got to lose?" So decided to turn it into a podcast, and that way it's been growing ever since. We're on our third season now, so we're chugging right along.
It's really amazing. I'm a fan of the podcast myself.
Thank you.
You are originally from West Virginia, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Born and raised in West Virginia.
And a little bit of background about you is you were actually a swimmer. Because when I was listening to Ride Home Rants, I was listening, I'm thinking this guy probably played high school football. When I found out you were a swimmer, I was like, wait, what?
I did do both in high school. I did play football, but swimming was my main sport that I was a lot better at.
And you also got quite a few scholarship offers, but then you
Yes.
ended up at Bethany. How did that go for those who may not know?
Oh, so that story is uh, probably one of the harder things that I've gone through. Because I was a hell of a swimmer, and I had scholarship offers from a lot of D1 schools. West Virginia University was one of them, which was my dream school, and always been the plan for me that I'm gonna gonna be a mountaineer, and I'm gonna swim. I love the school, and turns out senior year of high school in football, it was the first day that we put pads on and started hitting sleds and stuff like that. Hit a sled, and I felt like this burning sensation run down the back of my arm and into my fingers. And at first, just a dumb high school senior, I was like, "Oh, it's just probably just a stinger. I'll be fine. I'll just whatever." And I kept playing the entire season and kept going on it. And then it wasn't until I got to swim season that I realized I couldn't do my stroke and I couldn't move my left arm like I should. Turns out I had had a separated shoulder from hitting that sled, and I played the entire season on it, and actually lost my senior year of swimming because I was rehabbing my shoulder and trying to get it back to where it needed to be. And every school except for Bethany College dropped their scholarships. So it kind of made the decision pretty easy for me to say I'm going with the school that's the only one that's going to keep giving me money to go to school. So that's kind of how I ended up in Bethany to swim.
Nice, nice. And how did you end up running into John Fitty Falcone, the manager of your show, Ride Home Rants, before it happened?
Oh, Fitty. Me and him go way back. We have had some classes together at Bethany, but he was a member of the football team, and me being a swimmer, we were always at the rec center and everything together, and just always ended up being pretty much there at the same time, and just kind of grew a friendship just from our common love of sports and being in the same um, facility, day in and day out. We were always there, always doing workouts, and he was there for after school or after practice stuff, and we were in the training rooms together and stuff like that. So we just kind of bonded over that, and I won't say how many years later, but we're still pretty good friends today.
Awesome, awesome. And you went into communications at Bethany. Did you swim for the full 4 years at Bethany College, or did you swim for a couple and then just end up doing school the rest of the way?
I did not make it all 4 years as a swimmer. It was my sophomore year there, and re-injured my shoulder in the middle of a meet. I felt it pop out back out in the middle of a race. I finished the season, but looked at my coach and basically told him like, "Hey, as much as I love swimming and this is what I want to do, I can't continue to keep hurting myself and put myself through that for something that may or may not happen." You know what I mean? Like it's a far dream to get to the Olympics. A lot of people, that was in swimming, that's kind of the our Super Bowl, if you will, making it to the Olympics. I was an Olympic hopeful with my times, but once they realized I had, oh, excuse me, had an injury, it was pretty much all she wrote, and then nobody was going to take a chance. So I said, I'm just going to focus on school. That stuff's going to be there a lot longer than swimming's going to be. So it was a hard thing to walk away from a sport. And I know a lot of people make fun of all these athletes that get on these press conferences at retirements and they're crying and all that. But it's a hard thing for an athlete to go through, to say, what, I'm done doing something that I love. And so yeah, that was a hard thing, and took a lot. It took pretty much most of the summer for me to really say, you know what, I'm not coming back for my junior year of swimming here, and I'm going to focus on schooling. So yeah, it was a tough decision, but one that needed to be made, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Gotcha, gotcha. Imagine Mike Bono being the swimmer. It could have been the next Mike Phelps.
Dude, that's it. That's my. That was. I almost had. I was so close. Had I not been injured, I would have been able to swim with him in London in 2012. So that would have been a real dream come true. But I always tell people, even on my show, I'm not the biggest reader in the world, and I don't like to read for fun, I guess you could say. And that is, his biography is the only book to date that I read cover to cover.
Wow.
Um, got a lot of training tips in it too, as well. It was a very interesting book that I got, but it was something. Yeah, I've always looked up to Phelps.
He's a great athlete, very well accomplished in his
most
field.
most decorated Olympian. I guess I got some pretty lofty goals for myself.
Well, after your swim career came to an end, what did you do with the rest of the time at Bethany? Like, what was your major? I had listened to a bit of the show, and I know you said you interned at one of the local stations.
Yeah, I went into communications. Well, I switched my major to communications. I started as a business administration and realized that wasn't for me. And went into communications in a sports broadcasting degree. And so journalism type track in there. So I really dove into that. There was a lot of things. They had the radio station at Bethany, the TV station, and the paper, which part of being a communications major, you had to work in each one of those fields while there. So I had to work at the radio station, I had to work for the TV station, and I had to work for the paper. And that's when I really got into and really found my passion for sports broadcasting, and actually was the sports director of the radio station. So I actually, if back in the early 2000s, if you listen to anything at Bethany College, sports wise, I broadcasted every home: football, baseball, basketball, you name it. I was the voice of Bethany College when they were just getting their radio licensing and everything like that off the ground. So it was a lot of fun. And only thing I didn't like when I did have to write for the paper, they didn't give me the sports beat, which I was like, I'm the sports director of the radio station. How are you not going to give me the the
Yeah.
sports beat? I had food, so I had to try to talk about the food on campus, which it's tough with the only having the cafeteria being in the middle of nowhere in West Virginia. There was one bar on campus, and that, yeah. So when you hear people from Bethany say we went to the bar, that was it. We went to the bar. That was there was one place to go to.
I went to Kent State, and I think I probably would have gotten along that track had I really taken school seriously at Kent State. I went 1 year, and it was just a lot of distractions. But like, I didn't really get involved in like sports broadcasting until I met one of my good friends, Jeff, who I'd known for years. I got involved with that at Tri C, and then I've actually covered a game at Walsh. I had a buddy who was sports information director at Walsh, and then I was involved in 2018 with TV2 at Kent State with high school football, which eventually led me to creating high school sports content today. Believe it or not.
Okay. It's weird where how you get involved in things, because comedy was never on the radar. I mean, I loved watching stand-up comedians. That's always been a good pastime of mine, but I never thought it'd be something I'd be into. And the same year I graduated, one of my fraternity brothers was always doing and hosting these open mic nights at a local bar in Steubenville, Ohio. And he just kept bugging me to be on the show and just to do a bit and do this and do that. Oh, you're funny. Just go up on stage. I was like, dude, I have crippling stage fright. Like, you don't understand. Like, I'll freeze up there. You have no idea. And finally, he had a comedian back out, and this was he had built this show up so much that he was actually going to be able to start paying the comedians to go on. He was like, dude, I'll give you his cut of the show, but if I don't fill the full show, like, they're gonna shut the whole show down. Like, the bar owner was I trying to not be as salty language as usual, but he was a real prick. But so, I was like, you know what, for you, man, I'll do it. When's the show? He was like, in 2 days. I was just like, okay.
Wow.
He's like, I'll write your material. I was like, no, man, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna write my own material, and yeah, I'll be ready. I'll be ready by I'll have something to talk about. How long do I need to go on? He was just like, we don't really put a time limit, but if you want to do like 10, 15 minutes, that's fine. I was like, all right, fine. Well, I got to the bar super early and just started drinking heavily, just to be able to get the nerve to actually go up on stage. And I actually went up, and they told me, you're going to go on first because, let's face it, you've never done this before, you're probably going to bomb, like, and then we'll come in, the guys that have been doing it, and save the show. I was just like, what? It's your show, whatever. I'm here to help Tom out, whatever, man. Like, I'm here to be a friend. That's it. And then I went up and I absolutely destroyed the room. Like, everyone was laughing. There was a lot of laugh breaks, which is a big deal in comedy. And I ended up doing a half hour, like, of of jokes and material, till finally I was like, yeah, I'm done. And to the point where everybody after me wasn't as funny. Like, they had funny material, but it wasn't as funny, and like, they kind of bombed instead of me. And I just kind of caught the comedy itch, if you will, and the bug, and I've been doing it ever since.
It's amazing. Who would you say are your biggest comedic influences? I know some people say George Carlin, Kevin Hart, Louis C.K., among others.
Yeah, I mean, George Carlin's always going to be up there. Like him, Richard Pryor, like those guys are always going to be in there. But I really take I guess a page out of their book because me and Bill Burr kind of have the same style where we're both this kind of angry, long ranting comedian about just everyday topics. And I guess Sebastian Maniscalco is another one. Just being an Italian comedian, you don't see a lot of them, and to be proud of your heritage and everything like that, to make fun of it on stage too as well. And then obviously Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. I've seen both of them live, and it's just a phenomenal show. Um, and just an atmosphere that they've built for themselves. But those are kind of like the 4 or 5 that I kind of really like and watch a lot. And there's other ones that I follow the comedy scene pretty hard, and I watch the up and comers and everything like that too as well, which I'm still an up and comer. So it's just a great thing to immerse yourself in. And who doesn't like to laugh? I mean, I haven't heard one person that's like, you know what, I can go without laughing for today.
Yeah, it couldn't be me. Yeah, man, that's cool. Have you ever done any comedy tours or anything like? I know it's not like anything like big, like the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, but like anything on like a smaller level, like say you've toured the Midwest or the South or anything.
I guess you could say. I mean, I've been pretty much all over the Midwest doing comedy. I wouldn't say call it really a tour as much as finding open mics back in my younger days when I could really, it was just me. I didn't have a wife and a kid to worry about at home. I could just get in my car and drive 4 or 5 hours to do a show, to turn around and drive 4 or 5 hours back home to go to my day job the next day, and it running on an hour or two of sleep, and then turning around and doing it again the next night. But I've been to Indiana doing shows, obviously Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, um, parts of Illinois. I mean, it just in the sticks, just yeah, they're just in the middle of, you got a purty mouth type of uh places, driving 8 hours and doing a show and then turning around. And literally, I did one show. I'll tell this quick story. I don't know if I've told it to you before, but um, I drove. It was probably 6.5, 7 hours into Illinois, and it was there was nothing but like cornfields and stuff around me. I don't even know what the name of the town was, but
All right.
drove there, did my show. By the time I was able to get off stage, get paid for the show, and then get back in my car, I looked at the time and I was like, luckily I have my work clothes here because I have to drive straight to work to go to work at AT&T at the time, because I was going to get home in just enough time to get my store open. So I literally went like, I think it was 20, no, there'll be 36 straight hours with no sleep.
Wow.
So
That's
that's the kind of the negatives of coming up in the comedy world is, you're gonna have days like that where I was stopping at truck stops and stuff like that just to get a bite to eat. To this day, I ate something, I don't even know what it was. Like I just stopped. It was just one of the things left, and that I could I could afford to to grab a bite to eat. And I was like, you know what? I'm so hungry that I just need to eat something before I get to work. And yeah, to this day, I don't even know what it was
oh,
that I ate, but I ate it. I was that hungry. Um, and I tell people, even to this day, this old boy, I run on caffeine and nicotine. That's the only thing that keeps me moving. That's about it.
that's a hell of a work ethic to be going 4 or 5 hours to the middle of nowhere, like Illinois, like say Kansas out or something like that. Go out to the middle of nowhere and then go back to work the very next day.
Yeah, it's a grind for sure. It. people don't realize it because they see these people on Netflix and comedy. Well, Comedy Central isn't really a thing anymore, but when it was, showing my age a little bit, um, you see these guys and like, oh, that must be a hell of a career. You work an hour, like a day, and then that's it. It's like, no, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Like I know we were talking before we started recording here. Like this is technically my day off, and I haven't stopped moving since 6 o'clock this morning. So, and it's now. I mean, I know when we're recording, it's 8:20 after 8 at night, and I'm still I'm still moving somehow. But
Hey man, the grind is the grind. There'll come sometimes a lot of people like they see the finished product, but they don't
yeah,
see what it takes behind the scenes. They don't see what it is that that you make, that you create. Sometimes you'll be up 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning putting together the material,
yeah,
tailoring it for the audience. You'll see and talking about current events and this, that, and the third.
yeah. And people don't realize like my comedy notebook is always within an arm's reach of me because you never know when something might trigger. Oh, that could be a good joke, and you know it's you're always writing, you're always looking for new material, and in today's world, always looking what's going to work on social media to keep your name and your brand out there. So yeah, we're comedians are always working.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because in this day and age, I know like they say everyone has a podcast nowadays. I
Yeah,
just happen to jump on the wave because it's like people see the creation of like high school sports video and stuff. The podcast is just a bit of way to see the man in front of the camera, not just what you see behind the camera.
right.
Yeah. So tell me about the creation of Ride Home Rants. I know the pandemic really affected you as far as a comedian goes, like not being able to go to bars and stuff like that and do comedy clubs. Tell me how that affected you and like how Ride Home Rants pretty much got started.
Yeah, I mean, I, I I heard this joke from big name comedian Kyle Kinane, and it really stuck with me, and it's just our job as a comedian, it's not necessary for life to go on. If the shit that goes down like the pandemic, our job disappears. Like there's no no one's allowed to go anywhere and be around people. So Zoom shows were I did two of them during the pandemic, and I don't have the style of comedy where I can sit in front of a computer screen. I feed off of the crowd where I can't if I can't hear the crowd and see them and see their reactions, like it just doesn't work for me. So I was taking more and more day jobs, and something a lot of people don't know. Back during the pandemic, there was a pretty big name label that was thinking about signing me as their comedian, and we were getting ready to have them mail me the contract so that I could sign it and get it back to them, based out of Atlanta. And then the world shut down,
Wow.
and I reached out to him and I was like, "Hey man, I haven't got those papers yet." And he was like, "Yeah, well, you don't really have an online presence right now, so we can't take a chance with what's going on right now on somebody who doesn't have that online presence. So we're gonna pass." And they turned me down, and it was a kick between the pants, between the legs.
Right.
You think I can quit a day job. I'm going to be touring. This is the dream to be a full time professional comedian, and then to have that basically pulled right out from under you, you're starting back from square one because nobody's doing shows, nobody's allowed to go anywhere. So the pandemic hurt the entertainment industry. Uh, oh, excuse me, big time.
Oh yeah.
And so working day jobs, and like I said, I was just making videos and posting them up on my social media and just really just ranting about my day. And that's really what it was. And a buddy of mine was like, Dude, this would be an awesome podcast. I mean, it's just you're in your truck and you're just driving home and you're literally just losing your mind about your day. I work in sales, so I hear stupid questions on a daily basis, and just not being able to rebuttal the way I would want to these stupid questions and make a joke about it because I'm trying to be professional and make a sale and earn a living. So I had to get that out. So I would just hit record on my phone, which really started from my iPhone, just propped up on a mount in my truck and just driving home and just ranting about my day. And I didn't have a name for it for the longest time. I didn't know what to call it. And I was asking a couple of buddies of mine, and he was actually the one of the first guests to come on the show. He was like, "Dude, what about Ride Home Rants?" I was just like, "Dude, that's gold." Like I never would have thought of that. Like Ride Home Rants, because I'm riding home from my day job and I'm ranting about my day. So lo and behold, Ride Home Rants now, and it's heard in on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I have my own website for it too as well. I've also even started a subscription based stuff that I can't say on Apple, Google, Pod, and Spotify, and all that stuff, and through Patreon, and it's more of the video of the show, but a lot more stuff goes into it than that too as well. A lot more content that you don't see or hear because the wonderful age of cancel culture will cancel me before I even get started. But yeah, that's kind of how the show kind of got started. It was really just me losing my mind in sales jobs and just venting and ranting about it. And lo and behold, one of my buddies was like, "You should start a podcast about that." I was like, "All right, we'll give it a shot and see what happens." And I almost want it almost makes me want to call up that agent and manager and label that turned me down and says that I don't have an online presence because not to toot my own horn, but Ride Home Rants is heard in 43 countries and over 1,000 cities
Wow.
all over the world. And it's like, oh, I don't have an online presence. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you, you passed on doing the work to get somebody where they wanted to be, and I did it by myself.
Wow. That's on independent spirit right there, man. And you've also got your own merch store, which is called Stupid Should Hurt.
Yep. And that also stems back to working in sales. Hear stupid questions all the time, and it's just something that clicked with me. It's like, stupid should hurt. Like, and I don't mean like I want to like somebody to die or anything like that, but I just want them to stub their toe and bend it 90 degrees the wrong direction. Like that's where that's where my mindset was at. And being known on the comedy scene as the angry white comic, that kind of stuck with me. That I did that's what if you say or do something stupid, something should hurt afterwards. Like you should stub your toe or hit your shin off of a tailgate of a truck. Something, you know what I mean? Like I don't. And so I started the Stupid Should Hurt merch store to help kind of fund the comedy career.
Nice, nice, man. And it's really it's that's awesome. You've got your own merch line, you've got your podcast listened to in 40 different countries, and got over 100 episodes with an array of guests, including myself, Fetty, Austin, who I've interviewed in an earlier episode. And I'm gonna reaching out to Fetty to try to get him on a show in the future. So, and Lamar, I interviewed Lamar,
Yeah.
Sky Sports. So in a way, I have you guys to thank. You guys, in a way, helped me with my show.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're here to help, and I mean, that was kind of where the show has evolved to. It's no longer me sitting in my truck driving home from a day job and just ranting about my days. Since Fitty came on as the manager of the show, we've really tried to get guests from every walk of life, and if we can help them in one single way, get a name of something out there, or a good message out there, or they're a sports team that needs help with recruiting, if we can bring them more recruits, we that's what we're here to do now, and we're here to help as many people as we possibly can with the show. And that's kind of refreshing to hear that, that's we see it now with you starting your own show and everything like that, and getting guests from our show to come over to yours. So that's what we're here to do.
Yeah,
Just here to help.
I really appreciate it, man. And also one thing that also is a bit of an inspiration. I know you said you had the Fast 55. I'm gonna gonna go with the tapped in three. So I've got three random questions I'm gonna ask you.
Okay.
Okay, first question.
I'll say this: it's weird being on the other end of this right now. Like, yes.
Well, this is what you guys started. So
All right.
first question. Great Falls or Cheyenne? Which city would you rather live in if you didn't live in Ohio?
Great Falls or Cheyenne?
Yep.
I don't know either of those, but I like the name of Great Falls, so let's go Great Falls.
Okay. Which is the most overrated, or no, which is the most underrated Southern food staple?
Gonna have to go cornbread.
I agree, because
Big,
cornbread.
I'm a big cornbread fan. Yeah.
And this third one is actually going to be a funny one. Which is the most annoying cartoon kids character? Caillou or GW?
Caillou, 100% freaking Caillou. Just my son watched the
I
hell
agree
out of Caillou, and I can still hear the theme song to this. No, no,
Yeah,
get
I
him
knew
out of there.
annoying it like at 10 years old. I knew he was annoying. I'm like, oh my God, how do his parents put up with that?
It,
How?
it's rough. Being a parent is also another full-time job too.
Well, Mike, we're running down near the end of the episode. So if you have anything that you would like to plug, or if you have a message, floor is yours, man.
All right, man. First and foremost, thanks for having me on, Tony. It's weird being on this side of the podcasting world and being the guest and not the host. But thank you for having me on first and foremost. But for anybody out there, um, I'll give you this message: if you love something and you can make a career out of it, do not give up on it just because it can get a little bit hard. You heard my story about just driving all over the place, not sleeping for days, and it's gotten me to where I am today as a comedian. I a couple months ago, I've officially been signed by TL Entertainment out of Illinois. So the hard work can pay off if you just stick to it and just grind it out. And if it's what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike, for coming on the show. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Those of you that are listening, the podcast, The Tapped In with Tony, is also available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. You know the drill. Guys, have a good evening.